Chapter 1. The beginning of the end of the beginning. It was a dark and stormy night, except when it wasn't. Lightning crackled across the azure sky like a dying swan's last ballet, which is to say it didn't crackle at all because swans don't dance, and the sky was actually more of a mauve color, or perhaps chartreuse. I always get those confused. Detective Raven Darkblade stood at exactly 6 feet 2 inches tall, or was it 5 feet 8? Details weren't important, as he stared pensively out the window of his office on the 47th floor of a building that only had 12 floors. His eyes, which were blue like the ocean, but also green like emeralds, and occasionally brown like chocolate, the expensive kind, not the cheap stuff, surveyed the city below. He was 35 years old, or maybe 28, depending on which paragraph you were reading. Another mundane Tuesday, he mused internally to himself in his head, even though it was clearly Friday, according to the calendar on his desk that showed it was actually Wednesday. Suddenly, without warning or any indication whatsoever, the door burst open, but also it creaked open slowly. A woman entered. She was beautiful in the way that beautiful women are beautiful, beautifully. Her hair cascaded down her shoulders like a waterfall of silk, made of water that was actually hair. She was tall but short, thin yet curvy, strong but delicate. Her age was somewhere between 18 and 65. "Mr. Darkblade," she said breathlessly while breathing normally, "I need your help. My name is Scarlet Mystique Ravencroft Shadowmere III, but you can call me Jane." Raven turned from the window, his trench coat swirling dramatically, despite the fact he was wearing a Hawaiian shirt. "What seems to be the problem, Miss, It's about my husband. He's been murdered." "Murdered?" Raven exclaimed with the calm demeanor of someone who dealt with murder cases daily, which he did, except he was actually a tax attorney. "Tell me everything." Jane Scarlet sat down in the chair that wasn't there before, but had always been there. "It happened last night at precisely 3:27 a.m. I know because I was asleep at my mother's house across the country at the time, but I was also there watching it happen." Raven nodded knowingly, not knowing anything. His years of experience as a detective, or was it months, or had he just started yesterday, had taught him to read people like books, which was ironic because he was dyslexic, except when he wasn't. "Go on," he encouraged discouragingly. "My husband, Dr. Professor Lord Sebastian Montenegro Winchester, was a simple man. He only owned 17 houses and a modest collection of priceless artifacts. We were happily married for our entire relationship of 3 weeks, except for the constant fighting and the fact that I hadn't actually met him yet." The room suddenly grew cold, then hot, then returned to room temperature. Raven's mind raced like a turtle on sedatives. This case was going to be his greatest challenge yet, aside from all the other greatest challenges he'd faced that morning. "I'll take the case," he declared quietly in a booming voice. "My fee is $10,000 a day, plus expenses." "I can only afford $50 total," Jane replied, pulling out a briefcase full of cash. "Will that be enough?" "It'll have to do," Raven said, pocketing the non-existent money. "Now let's start from the beginning. Tell me about the end." As Jane began her story, starting from the middle and working her way sideways, Raven lit a cigarette despite being a vehement non-smoker in a non-smoking building. The smoke curled up toward the ceiling that was actually a floor, forming shapes that looked like clues but were really just smoke. "My husband was killed with a knife," Jane explained. "Or maybe it was a gun. Actually, it might have been poison. Come to think of it, he might have just had a heart attack, but I'm certain he was murdered." Raven jotted down notes on his mental notepad, which was actually a physical notepad, but he was writing with an invisible pen, so it didn't matter. His handwriting was illegible anyway, despite being typed. "And where did this alleged murder take place?" he asked, already knowing the answer because he didn't. "In the library with the candlestick," Jane exclaimed. "Wait, no, that's a different story. It was in his study, or the kitchen. Definitely one of the rooms in his house. The house I've never been to but know intimately." The plot thickened like water. Raven could sense this case would take him to the very edge of his abilities, and then push him over that edge into a slightly different area that was similar, but not quite the same. "One more thing," Jane added, standing up to leave while remaining seated. "I think the killer might still be after me. I've been getting threatening notes." She handed him a piece of paper that was blank except for the words that were written on it. Raven read the note out loud in his head. "You're next. Probably, maybe, if I feel like it. Signed, the killer. Or maybe not." This was serious. Or perhaps it wasn't. Raven couldn't tell, and that's what made him the best worst detective in the city of Insert City name here. As Chapter 1 drew to a close, while simultaneously continuing, Raven knew one thing for certain. Nothing was certain. Except for the things that were certain, which were also uncertain. The rain continued to not fall outside as the sun set at 2 p.m. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, or perhaps it would bring the same challenges. Either way, Raven Darkblade was ready. He was also unprepared. But mostly he was confused, just like the reader. To be continued. Or not. Author's note. This chapter is dedicated to my pet goldfish, Sir Reginald, who can't read. Any resemblance to good writing is purely coincidental and unintended.